Okay, so I kind of want to do another full story video. And this time I kind of want to go back over to Ultimate Marvel. And the reason why, because a while ago I did a full story video where technically I covered the entire year one in one single video for Ultimate Spider-Man. And I kind of realized, well, why not do the same thing for Ultimate Black Panther? Now, here's the thing, because when it came to issue number 12, I kind of put that issue alongside with the issue number 13 and 14 books as well. So technically, in this full story video, you're going to have the first year of Ultimate Black Panther, but also kind of like the beginning of year two to kind of get an idea of what year two is going to be like for our boy T'Challa. But with that being said, here is the full story video of Ultimate Black Panther. What's going on there, YouTube, and welcome back to another comic book video. Okay, so we are here, guys. We are finally here. Ultimate Black Panther #1. Man, and I really love this book a lot. Now, when it comes to the first chapter of this series, it doesn't give us a lot of information about the different characters or the different countries in Africa, and really, I don't mind. And the reason why, because I kind of like the idea of wondering how different things worked out when it came to a certain character or a certain country. But we do get some idea what's currently happening in Africa. Now, with that being said, when it comes to Africa, it's technically being controlled by two characters, Khonshu and Ra. Now, the reason why those two characters are kind of ruling over Africa are trying to make sure that Africa is under their control and everything goes their way, because they are currently working for the Maker's Council. Now remember, the Maker came to this universe and made it his own image. He tried to make sure there was no superheroes who would cause a lot of problems for this universe. And so some heroes were never made, like Spider-Man, Thor, and the list goes on. Now the Maker, he's locked away. He's locked away in the city, but he had a council. And so now the council is trying to pick up where he left off at. And so when it comes to Khonshu and Ra, they work for the council to make sure Africa stays under their control. And so it seems like we're going to see, different countries come to Wakanda, work with Wakanda to fight against the forces of Ra and Khonshu. Now, with that being said, we actually pick up in West Africa. Now, when it comes to West Africa, we do actually pick up in a small village where you have people just minding their business, doing different kinds of work, except out of nowhere, every single person in that village is killed off by soldiers who work for Ra and Khonshu. And you're left to wonder, okay, what in the world? Why in the world would it go around killing off people left and right? What did this village do? Now, with that being said, we do see two spies from Wakanda watching over this incident. Now, you would think, okay, they're going to dive in and try to help out the people of this village to fight back against the soldiers of Ra and Khonshu, but they don't. They only came here to gather intel and take that intel back over to their king. And so, unfortunately, this entire village is wiped out. But then we jump over to Black Panther, the king of Wakanda. Now, when he does wake up, we can tell that he just had a nightmare. And we're not really told what kind of nightmare he had. And the nightmare could be the village that just got burned down. Either way, when it comes to T'Challa, when he wakes up, we are introduced to his queen. Now, it's not going to be Storm. No. It's going to be Okoye. Now, when it comes to Okoye being his queen, you would think like, okay, they must have a strong relationship with one another. But it seems like they're not really a couple. It really seems more of like she got married only because it had to be done, because Wakanda needs their king to have a queen. And so they basically sleep in two separate beds, and their conversations are not really like, hey, are you okay, my loved one? It's more just, are you okay, my king? Yes? Okay. Bye. And so we're left to wonder what really happened between these two characters. And so you have T'Challa head over to the Citadel of Knowledge, and we kind of find out the Citadel is being controlled by his father, T'Chaka, who was the former king of Wakanda. Now, the reason why T'Challa came here is because of his dreams. He's kind of hoping that maybe his father has an idea of what is going on, but unfortunately, he does not. Now, when it comes to his father, he tells T'Challa, you need to go talk to the mother of the Voodoo Khan. Now, here's the thing. When it comes to T'Challa, he does not want to do that at all. And the reason why? Because he does not like magic. He does not like sorcerers at all. But when it comes to T'Chaka, he says you need to actually work with her for the time being until you have decided what you are going to do with her. And so we're left to believe that sooner or later he might get rid of magic completely from Wakanda. But until then, he must work with her and then try to use her to hopefully learn what his dreams are trying to tell him. Now, he does go over and pay a visit to the mother. Now, when he does arrive, he kind of gives her the vibe that, yeah, I don't like you, but I'm going to work with you. And she knows very well, but again, she would not disrespect her king, and she'll try to help him, give him counsel about what his dreams are trying to tell him. Now, when it comes to the mother, she says, listen, I feel like right now what's happening in your dreams is that it's trying to tell you what's happening on the outside of Wakanda. More violent things are happening in other countries in Africa, and those things could head towards our way. It's the gods trying to warn you, give you awareness, to tell you that you better get ready to protect your country, to protect your people, to protect your family. Now, when it comes to T'Challa, he's kind of believing what she is saying here. He's all like, what if she's telling me the truth? What if the gods are really talking to me through my dreams to help me get ready for what could possibly come to Wakanda? And so he does take her warning and leaves, but we're left to wonder, will he actually try his best to protect Wakanda before it's too late? Now, we kind of find out the two spies we saw at the very beginning of this video, they work for T'Challa, of course, but they're part of the Dora Milaje. Now remember, usually the Dora Milaje are like the best warriors in Wakanda, and we're left to believe it is technically the same thing here in this universe as well. And so when it comes to the Dora Milaje, they come back to report to T'Challa what they saw in West Africa. Now, this really does bother T'Challa a lot, but he says, thank you for your information, you may leave, because we are not going to do anything at all. Now, as soon as they leave, it leads into an argument between T'Challa and his sister Shuri. And the reason why, because she just heard that other people outside of Wakanda are being attacked by Khonshu and Ra. People are being killed off left and right, and we are not going to help them. That is a huge problem. But for T'Challa, he says, listen, I didn't say we're not going to do anything at all. I said just not right now, because we need to gather intel. We need to learn our enemies better before we go to war against them, because if we do, most likely we are going to fail. Now, when it comes to this argument, you do have the Queen of Wakanda, Okoye, be on T'Challa's side, because she agrees that it'd be foolish to go to war with an enemy that you don't know who they are or what they can do. And so she tells Shuri, you need to step down, not because your brother is the king, because your brother is right. And so she is very upset and Shuri leaves. But we kind of find out that the Dora Milaje, they have been trying to go to war against this enemy, Ra and Khonshu. But again, T'Challa has been saying no. And so they have been trying to use Shuri to kind of reach the idea of going to war. They want that war. And this could mean that they might try to use Shuri as a way to remove T'Challa as king and replace him with her to become queen of Wakanda, because they might feel like, hey, you are not doing a good job protecting our country. We need to go to war with these people now. But for T'Challa, that's not a good idea. Now we do jump back over to West Africa, and when we do, we see another village in West Africa being attacked by a group of soldiers who work for Khonshu and work for Ra as well. And these soldiers are about to go around kill off every single person in this village, except they are stopped by Killmonger. And so this tells us that Killmonger is out there trying to protect his people, but he's not alone. We kind of find out Storm works alongside with him, and she is known as the Wind Rider. Now we're left to wonder though, hey, are these two characters possibly together? But either way, they are the two protectors of Africa, it seems. And so they were able to use their skills and powers to protect this village. And this is a great thing. But will T'Challa work alongside with them? But we have to jump back over to Wakanda, the ending of this story, because we do pick up with Wakanda currently having a huge celebration. They are celebrating the idea that their country is protected and is so great. Unfortunately, in the middle of T'Challa's speech, out of nowhere, we see two suicide bombers who are both working for Ra and Khonshu. And with those bombers being there, they're trying to kill off T'Challa, but he was saved at the very last second by his father, T'Chaka. He was able to push his son off the high rise, and then the bombs go off. We already know T'Chaka is dead, but his son lives on. But on the way down, you have T'Challa transform into the Black Panther suit. And so you're like, okay, at this point, he was already Black Panther, but he does tell his people they are going to war against Ra and Khonshu. They are going to war against the people who call themselves Moon Knight. And this is where we are going to end today's What's going on there, YouTube, and welcome back to another comic book video. Okay, so we are going to continue our coverage over Ultimate Black Panther, and we pick up with the second issue. Now, the second issue does pick up where the last one left off at, and remember, when it comes to the Ultimate Marvel Universe, it was technically created by the maker, who went back in time to make sure the universe came out in his own image. But the problem is the maker got locked away in his city, and so now you have his council trying to control different parts of the world. Now when it comes to Africa, you have two people of the council trying to watch over that area. That will be Ra and Khonshu, and when they work together, they made an organization called the Moon Knights. Now when it comes to Black Panther, in our last video, one of the Moon Knights snuck into Wakanda as a suicide bomber and tried to kill off T'Challa. Now he was saved by his father, but his father died in that explosion. And so now it's Black Panther trying to find the enemies to hopefully take them down. And so as we dive into the second issue of this series, we do pick up with T'Challa with his wife Okoye in their room having a conversation. Now we do learn a lot from this conversation. See, when it comes to Black Panther, in the 30 days since his father's death, he had learned that there was a traitor in his nation. And so he had begun to go around and grab random people that he or others may believe could be the traitor. And that's a problem, because now you have the people of Wakanda beginning to lose their trust in their king. Now, when it comes to Black Panther, he says, listen, all I'm trying to do is protect my nation. But you have Okoye say, no, you are a scared man. And he says, no, I'm not scared, I'm angry. But she says, no, you are both. Because in reality, fear is just anger. You are so scared of the idea that you are not going to be able to honor your father, but you're also mad at yourself that you did not take all the warnings that were given to you about our enemies into consideration. And so now you're mad, but also scared that you may fail. And for T'Challa, he takes those words to heart because now he's beginning to wonder how he is as a king for Wakanda. How does the people think of him as king of Wakanda? Now, he does end their conversation by telling her that he has a meeting with the Voodoo Khan. Now, when it comes to Okoye, she tells Black Panther, listen, you may go to that meeting, but you have to realize they're not here in Wakanda to serve you. They're only here to serve the prophecies of Wakanda, meaning that you really cannot trust that group at all. They're only here for their own personal reasons. Now, in our last video, we had learned that Black Panther does not trust the Voodoo Khan because they were a group of people who use magic. But this is Black Panther saying that was 30 days ago. Right now, I need any kind of answers I can get that could possibly help me protect my kingdom, but to also bring down my enemy. Now, he does meet up with the leader of the group, and that would be Amala. Now, when it comes to Amala, she had a vision recently. She saw a future for Black Panther, where apparently in the middle of a war, he does meet a woman of light. And when they do meet, a bond will be born to the point where that person, the woman of light, is going to give Black Panther a child. But the question is right now, who is the woman of light? We did pick up with Ra and Khonshu. Now, Ra and Khonshu are having a meeting with their spy in Wakanda. Now, here's the thing. Ra and Khonshu, they don't trust their spy at all. But they don't have a choice here because, like I said earlier, they have been left in charge over Africa and they have been causing problems for all countries across Africa except Wakanda. Wakanda is the last country standing in their way. And so honestly, they have no choice here. They have to let the spy go out of their way to gather information to help them bring down Wakanda, even though they don't trust the spy at all. But you do have the spy say the war has to continue on. With the war happening, I am able to move around in the shadows and gather more and more information for you. But I want to see Wakanda fall. I want to see T'Challa removed as king of Wakanda. We then jump back over to Black Panther. Now, when we do, is Black Panther inside his war room. Now, in the war room is him and a few people that he trusts. Now, this is where we learn a tad bit more information about Ra and Khonshu. See, the reason why they have been attacking the different villages across Wakanda is because in those small villages, you had mines. Those mines were full of vibranium, a special kind of metal that Ra and Khonshu want really bad. And Wakanda has a huge amount of it. And that is why they have been attacking Wakanda over and over and over again. Now, luckily for T'Challa, 2 members of his council is able to say, we have found the base of Ra and Khonshu, because we realize that animals are trying to avoid a certain area, but also that area has changed for unknown reasons, which means there is a base there that belongs to Ra and Khonshu. Now, when it comes to Black Panther, he says, great, I'll head there right now, but I'm going alone. I want everyone here to stay here and protect Wakanda just in case something happens to me. And he walks away. But here comes the problem. See, when Black Panther arrives at that location, he gets ambushed by a group of soldiers who were able to surround him and just start firing at him. Now, luckily for Black Panther, his armor is protecting him, but sooner or later, that armor is going to lose that ability. And so it really looks like, okay, this could be the end for T'Challa. It seems like Shuri might become the next Black Panther, except he is saved at the very last minute by Ultimate Storm. And when he sees her, he's all like, oh my God, woman of light. But also, this could bring in a lot of problems for Black Panther and his marriage. But this is where we are going to end today's comic book video. Okay, so getting back into our coverage over Ultimate Black Panther, we do pick up with the third issue. Now, here's the thing. We do pick up with Shuri and also Okoye. And remember, Shuri is his little sister and Okoye is his wife. Now, we kind of find out that T'Challa has been gone for weeks. No one knows where he's at in Wakanda. And remember, in our last video, when it came to T'Challa, he was trying his best to bring down the Moon Knights. And so he followed a lead. When he did that, well, he was ambushed. But at the end of the last chapter, he was saved by Storm. But apparently, he never came back. Now, when it comes to the conversation between Okoye and also Shuri, we can tell that Shuri may know where T'Challa is at, but she's not telling anybody in Wakanda at all. And when it comes to Okoye, that is not okay at all because she is his wife. She has the right to know. But you have Shuri say, you just have to trust him and you have to trust me. Now, Shuri tries her best to walk away. When it comes to Okoye, it's still not okay. And you actually have the two characters fight against each other. Whoever wins, the other must do whatever the other person wants them to do. And so you have Shuri being able to take down Okoye. And she tells her, I'm not going to tell you. And because I won our battle, you have to do what I say. And I'm telling you right now, you need to back off. Now, when it comes to T'Challa, we see him currently with Killmonger, and this leads into a very important conversation between the two characters, because we do learn how each character actually feel about Wakanda. So, for example, you already know that T'Challa loves Wakanda. He's very proud of his home country, but when it comes to Killmonger, he's not as proud as T'Challa. Matter of fact, the way he talks, it seems that he really hates Wakanda for some very good reasons, because he does tell T'Challa the reason why he left Wakanda many years ago. He said he got tired of seeing innocent people who look just like him getting hurt across Africa, but Wakanda is not trying to help those people out. He's saying that Wakanda is not helping out other countries. They're only looking after themselves, and that really did bother him. Now, when it comes to T'Challa, he also talked about the idea of the Black Panther legacy, how apparently it does protect innocent people. But then you have Killmonger once again say that is not true. When it comes to the Black Panther, it does something, but it's not really trying to protect the innocent people, kind of hinting at the idea that Black Panthers have their own agenda when it comes to themselves and also Wakanda. It's not really there to protect the innocent people. But either way, you have Killmonger say, we have to go, we have to meet up with Storm. But now we pick up with T'Challa and Killmonger heading over to a different location. Now, this location is very surprising for T'Challa, and the reason why? Because it is a cave, but the entrance of the cave is a panther's mouth. Now, for T'Challa, he's wondering, okay, does this cave have some kind of connection to me, the Black Panther, or the legacy of the Black Panther, or possibly Bast, the Panther God, heck, just to Wakanda itself? But you have Killmonger tell T'Challa, can we please go inside? Now, as they're walking through the cave, T'Challa sees carvings on the wall. Now, the carvings on the wall is an unknown language that came way before most of the countries in Africa. And so Killmonger nor T'Challa know what the carvings on the wall is trying to say. Now, once they get deeper into the tunnels, you have T'Challa realize there is a lot of vibranium. And so he believes that they are here for that. But you have Killmonger say, no, so let's continue on. And they do. But then they reach a hole in the ground. And you have Killmonger tell T'Challa, we have to jump down. And they do. But then they reach another hole in the ground. And you have Killmonger tell T'Challa, hey, listen, this hole we cannot just jump down. Storm has to guide us down by using her abilities. And so this is going to lead into a conversation between T'Challa and Storm. And so you have the two young men just jump down and she guides them down. Now, ever since the last chapter of Ultimate Black Panther, I was really hyped into seeing the conversation between Storm and also T'Challa. Because remember, in the last chapter, T'Challa was told that the Woman of Light would give him a child. That was a prophecy he had heard. But then at the very end of Ultimate Black Panther #2, he was saved by Storm when he was getting ambushed. But he realized that she is, or she was, the Woman of Light. And so for him, he believes that sooner or later, they're going to get together and they're going to have a child with one another. Except for right now, we can tell that Storm does not trust T'Challa at all. And matter of fact, she questions Killmonger's choice here to bring T'Challa to this location. But you have Killmonger say, listen, if we are going to take down our enemies, the Moon Knights, we need more help, and he can help us out. But you didn't have Storm tell T'Challa, listen, what you are about to see is going to make you question everything about Wakanda, everything about your Black Panther legacy. It's time for you to know the true secrets of Wakanda. And once they do walk into the other room, you have T'Challa see some kind of advanced computer system or some kind of technology system in this room that was left behind from the people of the past. But the question is right now, what is this advanced technology in this room? And you have Storm and also Killmonger say the Moon Knights, Ra and Khonshu, are looking for this. And we have to make sure that this does not fall in the hands of our enemies. And the book ends on that note. But we already know, apparently in the next chapter for Black Panther, Shuri is going to take up the throne. And that is a very huge thing, because you would think Okoye would. So something big is going to happen in the next chapter. Okay, so getting back into our coverage over Ultimate Black Panther, we actually pick up with issue #4. Now, here's the thing, guys. The opening pages, we actually pick up with Okoye, the wife of T'Challa, the queen of Wakanda. And you have Okoye giving out a speech to hopefully restore faith in T'Challa and also their country, Wakanda. Because remember, the people of Wakanda, they have been looking for answers since the end of issue #1. They want to know who had killed off their previous king, T'Challa's father. They also want to know, what is T'Challa going to do to those killers? Now, here's the thing. T'Challa has been gone from Wakanda since really the middle part of issue #2. And so when it comes to the people of Wakanda, they have begun to lose faith in their country, but lose faith in their new king. They don't believe that he has the ability to find the killers and to make them pay for what they have done to their country. But this is Okoye saying, listen guys, I heard from T'Challa. I know he's been gone for a very long time, but don't worry. He'll be back soon. He has information that could help us get revenge against those killers. Wakanda must stand. Wakanda must work together. But here's the thing, Okoye has not even talked to T'Challa since he had left back in the middle part of Ultimate Black Panther 2. And so that speech she just gave to the people of Wakanda, that was a big fat lie. T'Challa, she has no idea if he's coming back home anytime soon. She has no idea if he was able to find any information about Khonshu and Ra. She knows nothing about what T'Challa has been up to. And matter of fact, you have Shuri walk in and say, that was a great speech, but that was a big fat lie that you just fed to the people of Wakanda. But she said, listen, I had no choice. The people are losing faith in their country, losing faith in their king and queen. I had to restore that and keep them going. But on top of that, you have Okoye and also Shuri agree on one thing here. There are many spies in Wakanda working for their enemies, and unfortunately, they don't know who the spies are. And so yes, what Okoye did was right, but at the same time though, it was still a big fat lie. Now, in the middle of the night, we do see Okoye just trying her best to get some sleep, but unfortunately, she realized somebody is sweating right on top of her, and that is when she realized there is an assassin in her room. Now, luckily for her, Shuri was there in the room to grab the assassin and take the battle outside. Now, when it comes to Shuri, she believes that she has the ability to go ahead and kill off the assassin. But unfortunately, you have the assassin say one single word. And as soon as she says it, some kind of attack to the mind of Shuri makes Shuri unable to continue on with the battle. But things get even crazier, y'all, because when it comes to Shuri, with her no longer being able to battle, it's now the assassin being able to beat down on her, but you have the assassin show off different kinds of moves that Shuri actually realizes. Moves that belong to the Dora Milaje, which shows that this assassin used to be part of Wakanda's greatest warriors. And the question is right now, why did this assassin leave Wakanda and join Ra and Khonshu, the Moon Knights? Why did she leave? Now, she tells Shuri, she said, hey, listen, you know what? Wakanda is a scar. There are greater kingdoms out there. And when it comes to Ra and Khonshu, they have done more things with me than y'all have ever done. Y'all had trained me to become a warrior. When it comes to Ra and Khonshu, they are going to make me a god. Now, luckily for Shuri, you do have Black Panther come back and being able to actually take this assassin out. Now, right after that, you didn't have Shuri inform her brother what the assassin had told her, that the assassin used to be part of the Dora Milaje. Now that confirms for our heroes that when it comes to the spies in Wakanda, they have officially taking up different high-ranking positions in the country. And that's kind of scary because now the circle of trust has just gotten smaller for T'Challa, for Shuri, and also Okoye. Now we jump over to the Temple of Ra. Now when it comes to the Temple of Ra, we pick up with Khonshu and also Ra. But this is really more of Khonshu giving Ra a lecture by saying, hey man, I feel like personally that all the moves that you have made recently are going to make us pay down the road, because this is you thinking that you know how Wakanda works. This is you thinking that you know how Black Panther works. You believe that you know what you are doing, but unfortunately, I believe that I feel like Wakanda and Black Panther are going to find different ways to actually stop us. Now, when it comes to Ra, he tells Khonshu, okay, you may feel like that, but I'm telling you right now, I'm making the right moves. Guys, listen, when it comes to T'Challa, he does not know everything about us, the true part of us. And so don't worry, I got him where I want him. I got Wakanda where I want it. And right now, I'm telling you, gather our forces. It's time to get rid of Wakanda. But now we get to the good part, guys. We get to the part where you have Okoye just going off on T'Challa. And for me personally, she has all the right to go off on him. Because to her, she says, you should have told me that you were okay. You should give me some kind of information to tell me what's going on, that you are alive. I'm out here lying to the people of Wakanda about what you are doing, or if you were even alive. But you could not bother to send any information back about what you're doing, or you are alive. Are you crazy? I'm your wife. Like, she's so upset. But at the same time, you have T'Challa saying, listen, I'm sorry. I know I made a mistake. But this is also, for me personally, T'Challa say, I had to make sure I can trust you. I had to make sure that I build a new circle of trust. That part right there, a new circle of trust. Because he's so afraid of all the different spies in his country, he could not just, send information back so easily, because he was afraid that information could possibly land in the wrong hands. He had to make sure the info that he gathered landed in the right hands. And so that's why he did not send her anything back at all to say he was alive. But he does tell her, listen, I want you to meet a few people of mine, because we are building a new circle of trust. And so later on that night, you have Okoye go to the Temple of the Sacred Dead to meet the new circle of trust that T'Challa has built. It's going to be Shuri, himself, Storm, Killmonger, and also Okoye. But this is where we are going to end today's comic book video. Okay, so getting back into our coverage over Ultimate Black Panther, we do pick up with issue number 5. Now, when it comes to the opening pages of this book, it actually gives us more information about things we saw at the end of Ultimate Black Panther number 3. Because remember, at the end of that issue, we saw Storm, T'Challa, Killmonger find some kind of source of energy, but we had no idea what it could possibly do. The opening pages of this book gives us some more information about that source of energy. You see, you had T'Challa tell us and the rest of his group that this thing has the ability to accelerate biological life, to give something time to live longer, or possibly just give them chances to live a tad bit faster, kind of help move things on. Now, he also says this source of energy could also affect non-biological things as well. And so now we know a tad bit more about it. But the problem is, we still don't know the actual origin of this source of energy. Now, when it comes to T'Challa, he does tell his inner circle, his group here, do not tell anybody at all, because we have to remember that there's someone in Wakanda right now who is technically a traitor, who's going out of their way to share information that should not be shared at all. Now, we do see Black Panther head over to the Temple of Voodoo Khan. Now, we have talked about them before in our earlier videos for Ultimate Black Panther. They kind of are the magical side of Wakanda. And when it comes to T'Challa, he doesn't really trust him because of that magic. Now, when it came to his father, his dad really did work with them because they had the knowledge of different things that could help a king out in different kinds of situations, like right now. And so even though T'Challa does not really trust him, he knows they're hiding some kind of information from him. And so he heads over to the leader of the actual group, and that would be Matron Imala. Now, when it comes to Imala, the actual leader of this group, she says, listen, I can tell that you want to know something. I could tell there's fear in your voice. So fine, let's sit down and I will share what I know about what you want to know about. And so you then have the two characters sit down and begin to talk. And this is where we kind of learn a tad bit more about that source of energy. Now, when it comes to Amala, she does tell us that a long time ago, two things fell out of the sky, and they were called the tears of the gods. Now, these two things, one was vibranium, but the other one was a source of energy that our heroes are trying to get a better understanding of. Now, she does tell us this right here, that everything in the universe has its opposite. So for life, there's death. For light and dark, and the list goes on. And so for her, she said, when it comes to vibranium, well, it has an opposite, this source of life. Now, when it came to the people, they called it the god of flesh. They called vibranium the god of material. But they call this new source of energy God of flesh because it had the ability to help things grow at a faster rate. And so you had the people realize its actual potential. And that is why when it comes to the enemies of the book, Ra and Khonshu, they want this so bad because it has the ability to build life. Now, when it comes to Imala, she does tell T'Challa this right here, that she does see a possible future for him, that she sees him trying to master the power that he had found. But the problem is, that kind of power is going to change him. Now, before it does change him, it's going to make him beg. It's going to make him scream, because again, T'Challa is going to try to master this source of energy. But she does tell T'Challa this, make sure it does not fall in the wrong hands, which again is Ra and Khonshu, who are right now trying to find that source of energy. But now I want to jump over to Khonshu, because Khonshu really does believe that he is some kind of god. And really, we see him right now interrogating some farmer. Now, when it comes to the farmer, he came from a village that was recently burned down by Khonshu and his men. But while the village was being burned down, this farmer called out for the Black Panther, and that really did bother Khonshu a lot. And the reason why, because this farmer is kind of looking at the Black Panther as some kind of god. And for Khonshu, Black Panther is not a god. He is a god, but not Black Panther. And he says, listen, as a god, I am now asking you, really, I am telling you that you are going to help me. And then we see him begin to change the farmer into something different to possibly help him. And so now we jump over to Shuri. Now, when it comes to Shuri, she's in the new base that her and the rest of Black Panther's inner circle were able to build around the source of energy, the new source of energy. But while watching over it, out of nowhere, she is then attacked by the farmer, who's now working for Khonshu. And really, he's no longer a guy who believes in Black Panther. He only believes in Khonshu, the moon god. And so right now, he says, I'm doing this for my god. I'm doing this for Khonshu. And so he attacks Shuri. Now, unfortunately, Shuri gets her butt kicked big time by this guy. Now, luckily for her, Storm does arrive at the very end of the battle. But the problem is, when it comes to the farmer, he was able to be teleported back over to Khonshu, but he also took the new source of energy our heroes were trying to understand. The source of energy that T'Challa was just told about to make sure it does not fall in the wrong hands like Ra and Khonshu. And right now, because the last page, we do see Ra and Khonshu now holding the new source of energy, the god of flesh. And the question is right now, what are they going to do with this new source of energy? Like, yes, they did say they're going to build their kingdom, but what else? What else could they possibly do with this kind of power? Well, those answers must be given to us in later books, because we're going to end today's video right here. So please, So getting back into our coverage over Ultimate Black Panther, we do pick up with the 6th issue. Now, for me personally, it kind of feels like the story is being dragged out a tad bit here. Like, I'm still waiting for the big moment for this first story arc. Right now, we're getting the small big moments. I need the big, huge moment to kind of pull me in and be like, okay, this is where the story gets really good. But Ultimate Black Panther still has my attention for now. But getting into the actual book, we do pick up in West Africa. Now, in West Africa, we do pick up with a young family. Now, this family is unfortunately watching their son die. He's dying from some unknown disease. Now, they did call in a doctor, and his doctor is trying to help save the child. But unfortunately, he has to inform the family that he can't do anything to really help the child out. And so now they have to watch their young boy die. But that is when you have Khonshu appear. Now, when he does appear, he appears as a god. And the reason why, because he's coming here to save the young boy's life after the doctor had just failed and informed the parents that he can't really do anything to save their son. But here comes this guy pretending to be a god. Now, remember, in our last video, Khonshu was able to get his hands on the unknown element that Black Panther in the inner circle found in a previous chapter. This unknown element has the ability to accelerate life. And so with Khonshu now holding that power, he was able to give the boy life again, to help the young boy fight against his disease. And like I said, this is him beginning to build up an army in a different kind of way, to now go around to help out different people in need who are now going to look at him as a god and build up an army to most likely use against Wakanda. And really, we jump over to Wakanda, where we pick up with Shuri informing T'Challa what's happening across Africa at the moment. The whole idea that Khonshu is now going around helping out people in need, but he's also pretending to be some kind of god with some kind of power. Now, those people, they have no idea where his power comes from, but they believe that he is a god. And so now he's able to build up an army to use against Wakanda. And that does scare Shuri a lot, but not for T'Challa. You see, for T'Challa, he believes it's time for a change in Wakanda. The whole idea of Wakanda being cut off from the rest of Africa really does bother him. He feels like the walls around Wakanda should finally be broken to allow Wakanda to work with the other countries in Africa. Now, we also learned that Shuri does not like Storm nor Killmonger because, well, no one knows much about them at all. Now, for T'Challa, he does trust them, but also because he heard a vision, the idea that down the road, the woman of light would be able to give him a child. And Shuri can tell that T'Challa might have some kind of feelings towards Storm, but we kind of find out that Storm and Killmonger are actually a couple, and they're kind of spending some time in the bedroom with one another. And it kind of shows that we might have a huge love triangle down the road. But now we can jump over to Ra and Khonshu. Now, for Ra and Khonshu, we do see that they were able to use the element to build up a kingdom for themselves to use. But here's the catch. Khonshu is the only one using the element. For Ra, he wants to use the element to gain power. And so he realized that currently they only have one piece of the element. There's other pieces out there, and it does seem like Wakanda most likely knows where those other pieces are at. Now for Ra, he does feel like Khonshu is not really taking Black Panther as a threat. He's kind of like, hey brother, I'm telling you, if you don't really try to play games correctly with Black Panther, he will bring you down. But for Khonshu, he's kind of showing that he's just being very cocky, because now he has powers in his hand. He does feel like he should be able to bring down the Black Panther. But now we have to jump over to a mineral refinery. And really, it does seem like it's going to be a quiet night. But then out of nowhere, you have all these people just running towards the actual facility. And we do learn that, well, they're suicide bombers. Now, these guys who are trying to protect the place, they have no idea what's going on. All they hear is that for Khonshu over and over again. But they're trying their best to kill off the suicide bombers before they're able to actually hit the place. Now, luckily for those guys, Black Panther arrives. And the reason why, because he feels like this is a terrorist attack. And that is not okay at all. And so after he's able to take down all the suicide bombers, well, then you have Black Panther be confronted by Khonshu. Now, this conversation really does not last that long because it's really more a Khonshu telling T'Challa that him and Wakanda both failed Africa because they allowed invaders to come into Africa to take up different pieces of Africa because Wakanda only cared for Wakanda, never did care for the rest of Africa. Now, for Black Panther, he kind of realized that Khonshu is trying to act like a god, but also trying to act like he really does care for the rest of Africa. Either way, you do have Khonshu believe that Black Panther cannot bring him down, that Black Panther cannot stop his master plan with his brother Ra. But you have T'Challa being able to punch Khonshu to kind of remind him like, hey, you're not a god. Like, you may believe you're a god, but you're not a god because I was able to easily punch you. Now, with that happening, it's now Khonshu and Black Panther officially saying that they're going to war against each other, which honestly, they already were, but we're going to act like, hey, you know what? This is now the starting point of the war. And hey, here we go. But this is where we are going to end today's comic book video. Okay, so getting back into our coverage over Ultimate Black Panther, we do pick up with the idea that the war has truly begun with Wakanda versus the rest of Africa. Because remember, when it came to Khonshu, he has newfound powers now, thanks to that unknown source, giving him the ability to accelerate life around the area. And because of that newfound powers, he has gone to different areas around Africa, pulling off different kinds of miracles. And with those miracles happening, you had more and more people beginning to believe that he is some kind of god. And so because of that, they began to worship him and began to be an army for him. And now he's trying to use that army against Wakanda. Now, luckily for T'Challa, he does have Killmonger. He does have Storm, but it's not enough. Now, let's not forget, in our last video, T'Challa basically said that Wakanda should have been working with other countries in Africa a long time ago. But as we all know, Wakanda truly never does. And for T'Challa, that's the problem right now. Because if they were able to work with other countries in the area, they might have a bigger army to fight back against Khonshu's army. But the problem is, they never truly did work with other countries in Africa. So Wakanda is on their own fighting against the rest of Africa, who right now believe in Khonshu. Now, there is a small problem for T'Challa, and that'll be Storm and Killmonger. Let me explain. Those two characters, they truly believe in the idea of killing off the soldiers of Khonshu. If you're able to do that, then you might have the chance to actually win the war. But if you don't kill off your enemy soldiers, they are able to use those same soldiers over and over again, while adding on more and more soldiers. And the army gets too big, Wakanda might not be able to win. And so for Storm and also Killmonger, they're kind of like, you should start killing off these guys. Even though they're innocent people, they have begun to work for Khonshu, which means they're no longer truly innocent. But on top of that, is Storm saying, your enemy knows you so well, T'Challa, they know that you won't kill, and that could most likely be your downfall. Now, you do have T'Challa meet up with a character known as Matron. Now, Matron is the leader of the Vodou Khan. And the Vodou Khan is kind of like this group in Wakanda that's more on the magical side of the world, where they use magic as a way to lead them in life. Now, with that being said, T'Challa has been going over to Matron, kind of asking for help, asking for guidance. And really, it's T'Challa kind of wondering if Matron also knows anything else but the unknown source of power that Khonshu has. But on top of that, more things about vibranium and how to win the war. Now, I kind of want to focus more on the war part here. Here's a reason why. Because for T'Challa, he wants to see if they are for certain going to be able to win the war against Khonshu. And the problem is for Matron is that for T'Challa, he kind of lies too much on science. He lies too much on data. He lies too much on the numbers. And for her, it's more of, you should start lying more on the idea of having faith. Because if you have faith, you might have more possibility of actually being able to win. But if you only rely on one kind of thing like science or data or just the numbers or the idea of war, you might not possibly win your big battle against Khonshu. And that's her big message for T'Challa to truly understand. But then she gets into the idea of telling us that what if vibranium is more than just a metal? What if vibranium is actually alive? And what she really means is that they don't know the actual origin of vibranium. It's just that one day it appeared on Earth. Like it appeared on Earth one day and you had Wakanda use it as a way to build up their country. And that's really it. We don't know if it came from a god. We don't know if it came from a different planet. We don't know if it's actually alive. All we do know is that Wakanda used science as a way to use that metal to build up their country. And what she's also saying is that because Wakanda has become so dependent on vibranium, how do you know if vibranium is not actually in control? How do we know that vibranium came to Earth and said, you know what? I want to take over the people of Wakanda because they're going to look at me as a new kind of resource for them to be used. But in reality, they will become dependent on me. They have no choice but to rely on me. And so she's saying a possibility that vibranium could be alive in controlling Wakanda. Now, you do have T'Challa go see his wife, Okoye. Now, for Okoye, she's kind of wondering if Matron was able to give T'Challa more information about, well, vibranium, but also the unknown source of energy that Khonshu is currently using. And for T'Challa, all he got in from Matron is just more questions that needs to be answered. Now, also for T'Challa, he kind of realized what he has to do here when it comes to bringing down Khonshu. If Khonshu's out there being a god, then T'Challa must go out there to be a god. It's the only way to take a god down. To kill a god, you got to be a god first. And so now for T'Challa, his plans are going to go in motion. But now we see Storm, Killmonger, and also Okoye getting a new mission from T'Challa. Now, this new mission is about the idea of going out into the other parts of Africa to hopefully find somebody who's great in both science, but also magic as well. Now, for T'Challa, he's not really telling us why, but for T'Challa, he believes that Killmonger is the best person to complete the job because Killmonger has lived in other parts of Africa. He knows how to fit in so perfectly. Now, for Okoye, because her mind's kind of like T'Challa, she needs to go as well to keep Killmonger in place, to make sure he's not doing anything rational. Now, Storm's only going because, well, she's in love with Killmonger. She wants to be with him. So she's all like, hey, if he goes, I'm going as well. And you have those three characters leave. But let's not forget what T'Challa said a moment ago. If he's going to be able to bring down Ra and Khonshu, he has to act like a god. He has to think like a god. The only way to kill a god is to be a god. And so you have T'Challa going out of his way to save innocent people who are being affected by the army of Khonshu. But after doing that, they begin to worship him like he is a god. Very similar to our last chapter when it came to Khonshu going out there pretending to be a god. And so now it's T'Challa saying, look, if I need an army to bring down your army, I'm going to get that army. If I'm going to kill a god, then I have to be a god. And this is where we are going to end today's comic book video. Okay, so getting back into our coverage over the Ultimate Marvel Universe, we now pick up with Ultimate Black Panther issue number 8. Now, I'm going to say this right here at the beginning of this video. This is going to be a short video. And the reason why, because even though there are a lot of great moments in this book, we really can't dive too deep into those great moments to kind of make a long video. And really, we're only given like 2 or 3 big moments, and that's really it, because this book is really more about action until the middle part of the book. Now, as we dive into Ultimate Black Panther issue number 8, we do pick up with Black Panther leading a small army of his soldiers against a small army of the Moon Knights. Now, this battle does go on for the first few pages of the book, and really, it kind of shows how great of a fighter Black Panther truly is, but also he's not going to back down until he is able to complete his mission, which is taking down Moon Knight. But while fighting against most of the soldiers, well, then out of nowhere, you have a bigger soldier with a special kind of sword come from behind and stab Black Panther in the knee. Now, at first, it's your natural pain, but then the pain begins to grow more and more to the point where you have Black Panther just screaming out loud in pain. His suit begins to fall apart, but this leads to him having visions about possibly the origin of vibranium and also the other kind of source of material that the Moon Knights are using. Now, with these visions that he's having, I really thought at first that this was a callback to the incursions when it came to Jonathan Hickman's run on the Avengers and New Avengers, but I was completely wrong, because by the second panel, we see that after the two planets had crashed into one another, the different pieces of those planets began to crash on Earth. Now, this could be the actual origin of vibranium. Either way, as the vision continues, it's now T'Challa walking through the desert where he does see a piece of vibranium. Now, you do have T'Challa pick up that piece where he begins to feel some kind of weird sensation. And with that weird sensation, as the vision continues, he begins to turn into the Basque god, the god of Wakanda. And so it's kind of like, okay, where is the actual origin of vibranium truly going here? Because this makes things even more interesting. But once you do have T'Challa being able to wake up, he is confronted by Okoye, his wife. Really, I feel like Okoye had been put on the back burner when it came to this series, because at first it did seem like she was a very important character, but then lately I feel like she's just there now. But either way, she does inform Black Panther that after he was stabbed by that one soldier, he was completely knocked out for 7 days. Now, while being out for 7 days, this man was screaming in pain over and over and over again. And for Okoye, she had to lie to the people of Wakanda because they were worried about their king. They had no idea if their king was going to survive at all. Now, you do have T'Challa get up because he is informed that his sister Shuri, who is the queen of Wakanda, is planning to go after the Moon Knights once again. Now, for T'Challa, he'll go talk to her, but he says with those visions, it kind of seemed like he has a better understanding of the origin of vibranium, but also it seems like he knows how to control it. Now, that is the big catch right there, because you did have Okoye pick up a blade that was made out of vibranium and hold it towards T'Challa, where he was able to call the blade over to him, kind of like he has telekinesis. But he's not calling it that. To him, it's saying no. He knows how to control it. He fully understands it. And now he feels like he is one with vibranium. And that is very intriguing. Now, jumping over to Storm and also Killmonger, this is where the book actually ends. So we see the two characters right now in Eastern Europe, where we see them beating down on a magician. Now, I have no idea who this is, and at first I thought it was Doctor Strange, but I could be wrong. I thought it was the ultimate version of him, but either way, you have our two characters telling him that they need a skilled magician, more skilled than he is. And so now they're looking for the Sorcerer Supreme. Now, for this mysterious guy, he tells our two characters that if they're trying to reach the Sorcerer Supreme, they are going to have to kill a lot of people. But for Storm and Killmonger, at this point, it's kind of like, okay, and so what? And so we're now kind of left to believe that Ultimate Black Panther issue number 9 is going to continue this storyline with the idea of Storm and Killmonger finding the Sorcerer Supreme, but also maybe finally T'Challa explaining the full origin of vibranium. But this is where we are going to end today's comic book video. Now, it kind of dawned to me that we had never covered Ultimate Black Panther issue number 9, which honestly, that is okay because issue number 10 had just came out today. And really, the two issues go together very well because we're now going to sit down and talk about the possibility of the Sorcerer Supreme in the Ultimate Marvel Universe. Now, you would think like, okay, we're getting Stephen Strange, Doctor Strange in this reality. Well, it's somebody else taking up that mantle as Doctor Strange in this reality as the Sorcerer of Supreme. But getting into Ultimate Black Panther issue number 9, we pick up with Killmonger and also Storm. Now remember, these two guys were assigned by T'Challa to find a powerful sorcerer to bring down their enemy. Of course, that would be Ra and Khonshu. And so we see our two characters right now in Eastern Europe. Now we see them trying to break into a facility. Now, before they do, we get the idea that for Storm, she's kind of done with helping out Wakanda and also T'Challa. But for Killmonger, he's all like, no, we can't stop. We gave our word to him that we would help. And so we have to help to the very end. Either way, you do have our two heroes begin the process of just trying to break into the actual facility by taking out the different guards who are up there surrounding the building. Now, after being able to do that, when it comes time for our hero to find the best way inside, out of nowhere, every single person that was guarding that place, every single person that was working inside that place is just shot out the different windows of the building, just falling from the sky all around Killmonger and Storm. And they're kind of like, what in the world is going on? Now, we do learn that they came here to free somebody who is a sorcerer who could help out T'Challa. But it does seem like right now that sorcerer may not need their help at all. It does seem like that sorcerer is trying to break free. Now, for our two heroes, it's kind of like a horror scene because you have the two heroes walk into the facility to find this sorcerer. But as they go deeper and deeper to the facility, they find more and more dead bodies to kind of show how powerful but dangerous this sorcerer could actually be. Now, once you do have our heroes go deeper down into the actual building, they begin to hear a voice. And you had this person ask Killmonger, are you a friend? And you have them say yes, but we also bring opportunity. And the person says, I don't believe you. And so we're kind of left to believe that this sorcerer could be a very dangerous person to release out into the world. But now we have to jump over to West Africa. Now, when we do, we pick up with Khonshu. Now, this is Khonshu trying to build up an army of people to use against Wakanda. Because in the Ultimate Marvel universe, when it comes to Wakanda, over the years, they did not try to help out the other nations around them. And really, when it comes to the Ultimate Marvel universe, it's very similar to the main Marvel universe, Wakanda, where in that reality, Wakanda's all like, listen, we can only care for ourselves, and that's really it. The other nations around us will try to help when we can, but for right now, we only care for Wakanda. But over in the Ultimate Marvel universe, it's very similar, but a tad bit more aggressive, where they're kind of like, listen, we only care for ourselves and we don't care at all for the other nations around us. But that's the problem right there, because it's well known across Africa that Wakanda does have great resources that could possibly help out the other nations around them, but they're not trying to help out those other nations around them. And so for Khonshu, he's being able to build up an army of people who have been suffering for years to try to use their suffering as a way to be violent and attack Wakanda to get what he wants from Wakanda. Now, in the crowd of people, T'Challa is there, and T'Challa is seeing that there's more and more people joining Khonshu's side, because now it's T'Challa realized that Wakanda was wrong for what they have done over the years, not helping out the other nations around them. But he now knows that sooner or later, all these people around him are going to be used in a war against him and his nation. But now it's time for us to get into the ending of the 9th chapter, where we do pick up with Killmonger and Storm still continuing to walk deeper into the facility. Now, while they're doing that, you have Killmonger still talking to the person who's just speaking words in the air, whispering in the air, saying like, hey, I know who you are. You're Killmonger. She's Aurora. I know everything about you guys, but why are y'all here for? And you have Killmonger say, because somebody we know needs your help. Now, this person is basically using the dead bodies around Killmonger and Aurora to speak to our heroes. But you do have this person say, I needed help for 3 years, but no one came to help me at all. Now, for our heroes, they just continue to go deeper and deeper into the facility. And when they walk into the cell of the sorcerer, they find her. It's not Stephen Strange at all. It's somebody else. But this person right here is supposedly the Sorcerer of Supreme, who could possibly help Wakanda in its war against Khonshu and Ra. Now, as you all know, when it comes to the Ultimate Marvel Universe, this time around in Marvel Comics, each issue is 1 month of real time in that reality. So, for example, when it came to issue number 9, it took place in October. Issue 10 takes place in, well, November. And so, as we get into the opening pages of issue number 10, we actually see Khonshu on the run. And it does seem like Khonshu is severely injured. And we kind of find out it's because of T'Challa. Now, we're kind of left to believe that, well, some time has passed by, it's got to the point where T'Challa decided to go ahead and attack Khonshu head on to basically kill him off. And matter of fact, at the end of this section, we see Black Panther killing off Khonshu. And so at first, it's kind of like, oh, that's it for the whole Khonshu storyline? Are we now going in a different direction with Ultimate Black Panther? But no, we're not. Because we kind of find out that right now T'Challa is having some kind of nightmare. And really, we see him talking to a shadow-like character. Now, this shadow-like character is, well, technically talking down to T'Challa, but the whole idea of him trying to use vibranium or to fully understand the metal. Now, for T'Challa, he believes that he does not need vibranium. And really, when he says that, you have this creature say, those are some strong words, that you believe that you don't need vibranium. If that's the case, then free yourself of your past. Free yourself of vibranium. And so you had T'Challa begin to try to break his suit off of him. But while doing that, we see that he is literally ripping off skin off his face. And so it's kind of like this nightmare is just getting worse and worse. But then T'Challa wakes up. But once you have T'Challa wake up from his nightmare, he's then confronted by Okoye, his wife. Now, as we saw in the earlier chapters of Ultimate Black Panther, when it comes to Okoye and also T'Challa, their relationship is not one of the strong ones. Like, it's on the very edge of just falling apart. And so right now you have Okoye expressing that she is worried about her husband. He left in the middle of the night and woke up screaming on his throne. She wants to know what is wrong with him. Now, for T'Challa, he's not telling her the entire truth about his dreams. The only part he tells her is when he kills off Khonshu at the end. And so for Okoye, she's saying, when you suffer, it's not just yourself. Wakanda suffers. I suffer. Your sister suffers. You need to let us in and tell us what is wrong. But he's not trying to. But in his mind right now, that early part of his dream makes him believe that he is winning this war. And sooner or later, he should win the entire war because the dream showed him that he has killed off Khonshu over and over and over again. But now we have to jump over to Killmonger and also Aworo. Now you have those two characters technically on their way over to Wakanda, back over to Africa by using a boat. But they do have that sorcerer with them. And we do learn her name. Now, I had to use Google to try to figure out how to pronounce the name. And there is a possibility it is pronounced Inen. And I really hope that is correct. But for Inen, she does not try to explain her actual origin. All we know is that you have different people out there, people of science, who don't fully understand the whole idea of magic. And they hate the idea of magic. And so that was one reason why she was locked up. The other reason why, because she was trying to use magic to bring down a warlord. And that was a huge problem. But you do have Inen go ahead and show off some of her ability to Storm. Now for Storm, she's beginning to like the character. Matter of fact, she likes the idea the character brings chaos into the world. But the way you have chapter 10 or issue number 10 in for today's video, while you have our heroes having their conversation with the origin of Inen, out of nowhere you have more of those guys who are trying their best to keep her locked up, reappear on a helicopter and trying to shoot at our heroes. Now Storm was able to get out of the way. For Inen, she was able to protect herself. But Killmonger, he got shot, so he's down right now. But you do have Inen being able to use her magic to take down her enemies. But right after doing that, we see her being able to use her magic to heal up Killmonger just like that. And so then she does change her outfit, look kind of very similar to Doctor Strange, but then open up a portal to allow her and the rest of the heroes to get back to Africa at a faster rate. And that ends issue number 10. Which means this is the end for today's video. So with that being said, guys, please leave me a like down below and subscribe. But guys, see y'all next time. Later. Okay, so I kind of feel like we are behind in our coverage over the Ultimate Marvel Universe. We got to cover Ultimates, Black Panther. I'm still not covering X-Men, but we still got to cover Wolverine as well. Now, with that being said, we're going to go ahead and get back over to covering Ultimate Black Panther. Now, technically, we're like 3 months behind, so I'm going to cover at least 3 issues in today's video, 12, 13, and 14. And so as we get into issue number 12, we're kind of picking up with T'Challa fighting against Moon Knight. Now, guys, remember, these two guys have been in war for a very long time. Not just Moon Knight, you also have Raw as well. But for T'Challa, it's him right now trying to prove that Moon Knight can be defeated. And so by the end of this section right here, we're seeing him being able to finally bring down Moon Knight. But here comes the big problem, because for T'Challa, he won. The battle is over. He should just walk away. But he doesn't. He continues to beat down on Moon Knight to the point where he rips off his head to kind of show his dominance. And so you have his people kind of looking at him kind of like, whoa, you just crossed the line. Like, you killed that man. You ripped his head off. And so we're kind of left to believe that this actually happened. But of course, it did not, because this is just a dream. And so now we're seeing T'Challa talk to a character known as Imala. Now, for Imala, they are the leader of the Vodou Khan. And for Imala, their main goal is to help Wakanda more in a magical way, in the mystic ways. And so for T'Challa, he's right now trying to look for answers. Now, for Imala, they had told T'Challa, like, listen, there's more things you need to know about vibranium. Now, for T'Challa, he's more science-based, want to look at things with science. But for Imala, they don't do that. Instead, it's them telling T'Challa, like, no, this is more magical. This thing is alive, has a god being behind it, and right now it's talking to you. It didn't talk to your father. It didn't talk to your grandfather, but it's trying to talk to you. But once again, for T'Challa, he's not trying to understand what's actually happening to him. But you do have Imala tell T'Challa, like, listen, tomorrow you are going to battle against Moon Knight. You are going to win the battle. But when you do win that battle, just know that his kingdom will now become part of your kingdom. His army will now become part of your army. Wakanda will grow again because of your battle against the Moon Knight tomorrow. But it's also T'Challa kind of realizing that he's now beginning to hear voices. He's now beginning to see these dreams that are happening over and over again because of his connection to vibranium. Now, with all that being said, the next day comes and we see T'Challa getting ready to battle against Moon Knight. And really, it's him saying, like, it all goes down here. Like, whatever happens, it all has to end here. If he wins or I win, again, it all ends here. And so the battle begins between the two characters. And so as the battle begins, you now have T'Challa see all these dark figures around him, kind of going with the idea that vibranium is building a connection with T'Challa. Now, the thing is, only he can see it. Nobody else can. But as the battle goes on, T'Challa realized he really can't focus on those dark figures. He has to focus on the battle. And so you have T'Challa being able to win the battle against Moon Knight, and to me personally, very easily. But after winning the battle, you think, like, okay, cool, he's done. But like we saw in the beginning of this chapter, in the dream, after he was able to beat down on Moon Knight, you would think he would stop, but he did not stop. And so you now have these dark voices, these dark figures around him, basically trying to bring his dream to life by telling him, no, you need to go ahead and kill him. Go ahead and do it now. And so you have T'Challa getting ready to kill off Moon Knight until he is stopped at the very last second. He is stopped by Doctor Strange, Storm, and also Killmonger. They are here to stop him, but also they are here to help him understand possibly the origin of vibranium. And so as we jump over to issue number 13, we're seeing Doctor Strange, we're seeing Black Panther being able to have that conversation with one another. But when it comes to their conversation, it's really her saying, like, I can show you the origin of vibranium. But the thing is, you have to free your mind, meaning that, one, you have to trust me. But two, you are a man of science. I am a woman of magic. We are from two different worlds. And the thing is, I can show you possibly the origin of vibranium, but I have to use magic. And that's the thing right there. You're a man of science. For you, everything must have a reason for why it does something in this world or in this universe. But the thing is, I can show you with magic. So please allow me to help you. Now, we also have to remember that for Wakanda, every single part of Wakanda was technically built by vibranium. But you do have T'Challa admit that he believes there's a mind in there when it comes to vibranium, that it is alive. But at the same time, he's losing his own mind at the moment. And you also have her say, listen, with the whole idea of you guys building Wakanda with vibranium, you just now put your entire country at risk because vibranium remembers everything. And so you then have Doctor Strange begin to use her magic as a way to dive into the vibranium to see if she's able to learn everything about it. But now she feels like she may have jumped too far ahead when it came to trying to figure out what is the actual origin of vibranium because something or someone is trying to pop out of it. But before we're able to learn more about that, we have to jump over to Storm and also Killmonger. Now, for Storm, she wants to leave Wakanda. She loves the idea of being able to help people, but across the entire continent of Africa. She hates the idea of just being here in one place this entire time. But also, she does not trust T'Challa at all. Now, for Eric, Killmonger, he also does not trust T'Challa. But here's the thing. He believes Wakanda is the key to officially help out all of Africa. And so his goal is to stay here long enough to kind of help Wakanda realize it needs to help everybody across the entire continent, not just his own country. Now, why have the two characters talking to one another? They see the bright light coming from T'Challa's throne room. We see that she had brought some kind of powerful being out of vibranium. And this being is really powerful. His main goal right now is to go after T'Challa. Now, luckily for T'Challa, he has backup. Doctor Strange, Storm, Killmonger, they're all there to technically help out. But this creature shows a range of different abilities, but also shows how powerful it can truly be. And so for our heroes, it does seem like at first they might lose this battle. But luckily for our heroes, Doctor Strange is able to open up a portal to send that thing into space, deep space away from Earth. And so once the battle is done, you then have Black Panther ask Doctor Strange, like, hey, did that creature truly come out of vibranium? Like, was it truthfully living inside of there? And you have Doctor Strange say, yes, it was. That was its consciousness, and I gave it a form, that body right there. And the thing is, we still know everything about vibranium, but she does tell Black Panther this, that your entire country is technically in trouble. And so as we get into issue number 14, we jump over to Nigeria and we pick up with a group of soldiers trying to move in on this camp that's being guarded by a bunch of mercenaries. Now, by the end of this battle, both sides have a huge amount of loss. I mean, the entire mercenary crew who was guarding that camp, yeah, they're all dead. Now, the soldiers who were moving in on the camp, most of them died except for one. And you have that guy call his boss and say, hey, listen, I'm the last man standing from both sides. He had his boss say, hey, sorry for your loss, but hey, listen, you came there for a mission. Make sure you secure the cargo. And the cargo is just more vibranium, but over here in Nigeria. Now, once you have the guy confirm he found the cargo, unfortunately, the same creature we saw in the last chapter just pops out of nowhere and says, you will do. You be the blood of the vessel. And as you know, the entire place explodes. Now, for a brief moment, we jump back over to T'Challa and also Killmonger. Now, these two characters are having a conversation about the idea of making Killmonger become the general for Wakanda. Now, at first, Killmonger's not really down with that idea, but they say, you know what? He'll go ahead and do it. Now, with this conversation, you have Killmonger kind of explain things to T'Challa about Storm, why Storm kind of hates the idea of being in Wakanda. But it's also because she hates the idea of being somewhere in one place for too long, but also this place is just too strict. Out there, they were free to do whatever they wanted to do. Now, for Doctor Strange, what she's doing right now is kind of like meditating, but she's trying to find the best way to deal with dark vibranium. Now, with that being said, for Killmonger, his goal is go out there and to also find the artifacts that belong to Doctor Strange to kind of help them with their overall mission. So now we see Wakanda kind of being built a tad bit different now, with people taking on new roles in this country. But also for T'Challa, we see him putting on a brand new outfit that's not made of any vibranium at all, to kind of allow him to not be possessed by the dark vibranium at all, but to also allow him to finish the mission that he's trying to achieve here. But to close on today's video, we do pick up with a helicopter heading over to a camp in Nigeria, the same we saw earlier. Now, while trying to do that, you have three folks on this helicopter: a random lady from America, you have some guy who was the boss of all those soldiers, and also the pilot. Now, on the way over to that camp, they are then shot out of the sky and they crash land. Now, the pilot and the other soldier, they're killed off, only leaving the lady alive. But then she is grabbed by the same creature we saw earlier, who begins to kind of absorb her life energy, it seems like. And so now we see him about to become a major problem for our heroes in the next issue. But this is where we're going to end today's comic book video. So please leave me a like down below and subscribe. But guys, see y'all next time. Later.